The Discourses of Epictetus. Translated by George Long. Book 4. Chapter 1. Part 3. About freedom. You then, a man may say, "Are you free?" I wish, by the gods, and pray to be free, but I am not yet able to face my masters. I still value my poor body. I value greatly the preservation of it entire, though I do not possess it entire. But I can point out to you a free man, that you may no longer seek an example. Diogenes was free. How was he free? Not because he was born of free parents, but because he was himself free, because he had cast off all the handles of slavery, and it was not possible for any man to approach him, nor had any man the means of laying hold of him to enslave him. He had everything easily loosed, everything only hanging to him. If you laid hold of his property, he would have rather let it go and be yours, than he would have followed you for it. If you had laid hold of his leg, he would have let go his leg, if of all his body, all his poor body. His intimates, friends, country, just the same. For he knew from whence he had them, and from whom, and on what conditions. His true parents indeed, the gods, and his real country he would never have deserted, nor would he have yielded to any man in obedience to them and to their orders, nor would any man have died for his country more readily. For he was not used to inquire when he should be considered to have done anything on behalf of the whole of things, the universe, or all the world, but he remembered that everything which is done comes from thence and is done on behalf of that country, and is commanded by him who administers it. Therefore see what Diogenes himself says and writes. For this reason, he says, "Diogenes, it is in your power to speak both with the king of the Persians and with Archidamus the king of the Lacedaemonians, as you please." Was it because he was born of free parents? I suppose all the Athenians and all the Lacedaemonians, because they were born of slaves, could not talk with them, these kings, as they wished, but feared and paid court to them. Why then does he say that it is in his power? Because I do not consider the poor body to be my own, because I want nothing, because law is everything to me, and nothing else is. These were the things which permitted him to be free. And that you may not think that I show you the example of a man who is a solitary person, who has neither wife nor children nor country, nor friends, nor kinsmen, by whom he could be bent and drawn in various directions, take Socrates and observe that he had a wife and children, but he did not consider them as his own. That he had a country, so long as it was fit to have one, and in such a manner as was fit, friends and kinsmen also, but he held all in subjection to law and to the obedience due to it. For this reason he was the first to go out as a soldier, when it was necessary. And in war he exposed himself to danger most unsparingly, and when he was sent by the tyrants to seize Leon, he did not even deliberate about the matter, because he thought that it was a base action, and he knew that he must die, for his refusal, if it so happened. And what difference did that make to him? For he intended to preserve something else, not his poor flesh, but his fidelity, his honorable character. These are things which could not be assailed nor brought into subjection. Then when he was obliged to speak in defense of his life, did he behave like a man who had children, who had a wife? No, but he behaved like a man who has neither. And what did he do when he was ordered to drink the poison, and when he had the power of escaping from prison, and when Crito said to him, "Escape for the sake of your children"? What did Socrates say? Did he consider the power of escape as an unexpected gain? By no means. He considered what was fit and proper, but the rest he did not even look at or take into the reckoning. For he did not choose, he said, to save his poor body, but to save that which is increased and saved by doing what is just, and is impaired and destroyed by doing what is unjust. Socrates will not save his life by a base act, he who would not put the Athenians to the vote when they clamored that he should do so, he who refused to obey the tyrants, he who discoursed in such a manner about virtue and right behavior. It is not possible to save such a man's life by base acts, but he is saved by dying, not by running away. For the good actor also preserves his character by stopping when he ought to stop, better than when he goes on acting beyond the proper time. What then shall the children of Socrates do? If, said Socrates, I had gone off to Thessaly, would you have taken care of them, and if I depart to the world below, will there be no man to take care of them? See how he gives to death a gentle name and mocks it. But if you and I had been in his place, we should have immediately answered as philosophers that those who act unjustly must be repaid in the same way, and we should have added, I shall be useful to many. If my life is saved, and if I die, I shall be useful to no man. For, if it had been necessary, we should have made our escape by slipping through a small hole. And how in that case should we have been useful to any man? For where would they have been then staying? Or if we were useful to men while we were alive, should we not have been much more useful to them by dying when we ought to die, and as we ought? And now Socrates being dead, no less useful to men, and even more useful, is the remembrance of that which he did or said when he was alive. Think of these things, these opinions, these words, look to these examples, if you would be free, if you desire the thing according to its worth. And what is the wonder if you buy so great a thing at the price of things so many and so great? For the sake of this, which is called liberty. Some hang themselves, others throw themselves down precipices, and sometimes even whole cities have perished. And will you not, for the sake of the true and unassailable and secure liberty, give back to God when he demands them the things which he has given? Will you not, as Plato says, study not to die only, but also to endure torture, and exile, and scourging, and in a word to give up all which is not your own? If you will not, you will be a slave among slaves, even if you be 10,000 times a consul. And if you make your way up to the palace, Caesar's residence, you will no less be a slave, and you will feel that perhaps philosophers utter words which are contrary to common opinion, paradoxes, as Cleanthes also said, but not words contrary to reason. For you will know by experience that the words are true, and that there is no profit from the things which are valued and eagerly sought to those who have obtained them, and to those who have not yet obtained them there is an imagination, fantasia. That when these things are come, all that is good will come with them, then, when they are come, the feverish feeling is the same, the tossing to and fro is the same, the satiety, the desire of things which are not present, for freedom is acquired not by the full possession of the things which are desired, but by removing the desire. And that you may know that this is true, as you have labored for those things, so transfer your labor to these, be vigilant for the purpose of acquiring an opinion which will make you free, pay court to a philosopher instead of to a rich old man. Be seen about a philosopher's doors, you will not disgrace yourself by being seen, you will not go away empty nor without profit if you go to the philosopher as you ought, and if not, if you do not succeed, try at least, the attempt, is not disgraceful. Book 4. Chapter 2. On Familiar Intimacy. To this matter before all you must attend, that you be never so closely connected with any of your former intimates or friends as to come down to the same acts as he does. If you do not observe this rule, you will ruin yourself. But if the thought arises in your mind, shall seem disobliging to him, and he will not have the same feeling towards me. Remember that nothing is done without cost, nor is it possible for a man if he does not do the same things to be the same man that he was. Choose then which of the two you will have, to be equally loved by those by whom you were formerly loved, being the same with your former self, or, being superior, not to obtain from your friends the same that you did before. For if this is better, immediately turn away to it, and let not other considerations draw you in a different direction. For no man is able to make progress, improvement, when he is wavering between opposite things. But if you have preferred this one thing to all things, if you choose to attend to this only, to work out this only, give up everything else. But if you will not do this, your wavering will produce both these results: you will neither improve as you ought, nor will you obtain what you formerly obtained. For before, by plainly desiring the things which were worth nothing, you pleased your associates. But you cannot excel in both kinds, and it is necessary that so far as you share in the one, you must fall short in the other. You cannot, when you do not drink with those with whom you used to drink, be agreeable to them as you were before. Choose then whether you will be a hard drinker and pleasant to your former associates, or a sober man and disagreeable to them. You cannot, when you do not sing with those with whom you used to sing, be equally loved by them. Choose then in this matter also which of the two you will have. For if it is better to be modest and orderly than for a man to say, "He is a jolly fellow," give up the rest, renounce it, turn away from it, have nothing to do with such men. But if this behavior shall not please you, turn altogether to the opposite, become a catamite, an adulterer, and act accordingly, and you will get what you wish. And jump up in the theater and bawl out in praise of the dancer. But characters so different cannot be mingled, you cannot act both Thersites and Agamemnon. If you intend to be Thersites, you must be humpbacked and bald; if Agamemnon, you must be tall and handsome, and love those who are placed in obedience to you. Book 4. Chapter 3. What things we should exchange for other things. Keep this thought in readiness: when you lose anything external, what you acquire in place of it, and if it be worth more, never say, "I have had a loss," neither if you have got a horse in place of an ass, or an ox in place of a sheep, nor a good action in place of a bit of money, nor in place of idle talk such tranquility as befits a man, nor in place of lewd talk if you have acquired modesty. If you remember this, you will always maintain your character such as it ought to be. But if you do not, consider that the times of opportunity are perishing, and that whatever pains you take about yourself, you are going to waste them all and overturn them. And it needs only a few things for the loss and overturning of all, namely a small deviation from reason. For the steerer of a ship to upset it, he has no need of the same means as he has need of for saving it, but if he turns it a little to the wind, it is lost; and if he does not do this purposely, but has been neglecting his duty a little, the ship is lost. Something of the kind happens in this case also: if you only fall a nodding a little, all that you have up to this time collected is gone. Attend therefore to the appearances of things, and watch over them. For that which you have to preserve is no small matter, but it is modesty and fidelity and constancy, freedom from the affects, a state of mind undisturbed, freedom from fear, tranquility, in a word, liberty. For what will you sell these things? See what is the value of the things which you will obtain in exchange for these, but shall I not obtain any such thing for it? See, and if you do in return get that, see what you receive in place of it. I possess decency, he possesses a tribuneship, he possesses a praetorship, I possess modesty. But I do not make acclamations where it is not becoming, I will not stand up where I ought not, for I am free, and a friend of God, and so I obey him willingly. But I must not claim, seek, anything else, neither body nor possession, nor magistracy, nor good report, nor in fact anything. For he, God, does not allow me to claim, seek, them, for if he had chosen, he would have made them good for me, but he has not done so, and for this reason I cannot transgress his commands. Preserve that which is your own good in everything, and as to every other thing, as it is permitted, and so far as to behave consistently with reason in respect to them, content with this only. If you do not, you will be unfortunate, you will fail in all things, you will be hindered, you will be impeded. These are the laws which have been sent from thence, from God, these are the orders. Of these laws a man ought to be an expositor, to these he ought to submit, not to those of Mesurius and Cassius. Book 4. Chapter 4. To those who are desirous of passing life in tranquility. Remember that not only the desire of power and of riches makes us mean and subject to others, but even the desire of tranquility, and of leisure, and of traveling abroad, and of learning. For to speak plainly, whatever the external thing may be, the value which we set upon it places us in subjection to others. What then is the difference between desiring to be a senator or not desiring to be one? What is the difference between desiring power or being content with a private station? What is the difference between saying, I am unhappy, I have nothing to do, but I am bound to my books as a corpse, or saying, I am unhappy, I have no leisure for reading? For as salutations and power are things external and independent of the will, so is a book. For what purpose do you choose to read? Tell me. For if you only direct your purpose to being amused or learning something, you are a silly fellow and incapable of enduring labor. But if you refer reading to the proper end, what else is this than a tranquil and happy life, Eusoia? But if reading does not secure for you a happy and tranquil life, what is the use of it? But it does secure this, the man replies, and for this reason I am vexed that I am deprived of it. And what is this tranquil and happy life, which any man can impede? I do not say Caesar or Caesar's friend, but a crow, a piper, a fever, and 30,000 other things. But a tranquil and happy life contains nothing so sure as continuity and freedom from obstacle. Now I am called to do something, I will go then with the purpose of observing the measures, rules, which I must keep, of acting with modesty, steadiness, without desire and aversion to things external, and then that I may attend to men, what they say, how they are moved. And this not with any bad disposition, or that I may have something to blame or to ridicule, but I turn to myself, and ask if I also commit the same faults. How then shall I cease to commit them? Formerly I also acted wrong, but now I do not, thanks to God. Come, when you have done these things and have attended to them, have you done a worse act than when you have read 1,000 verses or written as many? For when you eat, are you grieved because you are not reading? Are you not satisfied with eating according to what you have learned by reading, and so with bathing and with exercise? Why then do you not act consistently in all things, both when you approach Caesar and when you approach any person? If you maintain yourself free from perturbation, free from alarm, and steady, if you look rather at the things which are done and happen than are looked at yourself. If you do not envy those who are preferred before you, if surrounding circumstances, bulai, do not strike you with fear or admiration, what do you want? Books. How or for what purpose? For is not this, the reading of books, a preparation for life? And is not life itself, living, made up of certain other things than this? This is just as if an athlete should weep when he enters the stadium, because he is not being exercised outside of it. It was for this purpose that you used to practice exercise, for this purpose were used the halters, weights, the dust, the young men as antagonists, and do you seek for those things now when it is the time of action? This is just as if in the topic, matter, of assent when appearances present themselves, some of which can be comprehended, and some cannot be comprehended, we should not choose to distinguish them but should choose to read what has been written about comprehension. Catalepsis. What then is the reason of this? The reason is that we have never read for this purpose, we have never written for this purpose, so that we may in our actions use in a way conformable to nature the appearances presented to us, but we terminate in this. In learning what is said, and in being able to expound it to another, in resolving a syllogism, and in handling the hypothetical syllogism. For this reason where our study, purpose, is, there alone is the impediment. Would you have by all means the things which are not in your power? Be prevented then, be hindered, fail in your purpose. But if we read what is written about action, efforts, not that we may see what is said about action, but that we may act well, if we read what is said about desire and aversion, avoiding things. In order that we may neither fail in our desires, nor fall into that which we try to avoid, if we read what is said about duty, officium, in order that remembering the relations of things to one another, we may do nothing irrationally nor contrary to these relations. We should not be vexed in being hindered as to our readings, but we should be satisfied with doing the acts which are conformable to the relations, and we should be reckoning not what so far we have been accustomed to reckon. Today I have read so many verses, I have written so many. But, we should say, today I have employed my action as it is taught by the philosophers, I have not employed my desire, I have used avoidance, ecclesiae, only with respect to things which are within the power of my will. I have not been afraid of such a person, I have not been prevailed upon by the entreaties of another. I have exercised my patience, my abstinence, my cooperation with others, and so we should thank God for what we ought to thank Him. But now we do not know that we also in another way are like the many. Another man is afraid that he shall not have power, you are afraid that you will. Do not do so, my man, but as you ridicule him who is afraid that he shall not have power, so ridicule yourself also. For it makes no difference whether you are thirsty like a man who has a fever, or have a dread of water like a man who is mad. Or how will you still be able to say as Socrates did, if so it pleases God, so let it be? Do you think that Socrates, if he had been eager to pass his leisure in the Lyceum or in the Academy, and to discourse daily with the young men, would have readily served in military expeditions so often as he did, and would he not have lamented and groaned, wretch that I am, I must now be miserable here, when I might be sunning myself in the Lyceum? Why, was this your business, to sun yourself? And is it not your business to be happy, to be free from hindrance, free from impediment? And could he still have been Socrates, if he had lamented in this way, how would he still have been able to write paeans in his prison? In short, remember this, that what you shall prize, which is beyond your will, so far you have destroyed your will. But these things are out of the power of the will, not only power, authority, but also a private condition, not only occupation, business, but also leisure. Now then must I live in this tumult? Why do you say tumult? I mean among many men. Well, what is the hardship? Suppose that you are at Olympia, imagine it to be a panegyrus, public assembly, where one is calling out one thing, another is doing another thing, and a third is pushing another person. In the baths there is a crowd, and who of us is not pleased with this assembly, and leaves it unwillingly? Be not difficult to please nor fastidious about what happens. Vinegar is disagreeable, for it is sharp, honey is disagreeable, for it disturbs my habit of body. I do not like vegetables. So also I do not like leisure, it is a desert. I do not like a crowd, it is confusion. But if circumstances make it necessary for you to live alone or with a few, call it quiet, and use the thing as you ought. Talk with yourself, exercise the appearances presented to you, work up your preconceptions. If you fall into a crowd, call it a celebration of games, a panegyris, a festival. Try to enjoy the festival with other men. For what is a more pleasant sight to him who loves mankind than a number of men? We see with pleasure herds of horses or oxen, we are delighted when we see many ships. Who is pained when he sees many men? But they deafen me with their cries. Then your hearing is impeded. What then is this to you? Is then the power of making use of appearances hindered? And who prevents you from using according to nature inclination to a thing and aversion from it, and movement towards a thing and movement from it? What tumult, confusion, is able to do this? Do you only bear in mind the general rules? What is mine? What is not mine? What is given, permitted, to me? What does God will that I should do now? What does he not will? A little before he willed you to be at leisure, to talk with yourself, to write about these things, to read, to hear, to prepare yourself. You had sufficient time for this. Now he says to you, come now to the contest, show us what you have learned, how you have practiced the athletic art. How long will you be exercised alone? Now is the opportunity for you to learn whether you are an athlete worthy of victory, or one of those who go about the world and are defeated. Why then are you vexed? No contest is without confusion. There must be many who exercise themselves for the contest, many who call out to those who exercise themselves, many masters, many spectators. But my wish is to live quietly. Lament then and groan as you deserve to do. For what other is a greater punishment than this to the untaught man and to him who disobeys the divine commands, to be grieved, to lament, to envy, in a word to be disappointed and to be unhappy? Would you not release yourself from these things? And how shall I release myself? Have you not often heard that you ought to remove entirely desire, apply aversion, turning away, to those things only which are within your power, that you ought to give up everything, body, property, fame, books, tumult, power, private station? For whatever way you turn, you are a slave, you are subjected, you are hindered, you are compelled, you are entirely in the power of others. But keep the words of Cleanthes in readiness. Lead me, O Zeus, and thou necessity. Is it your will that I should go to Rome? I will go to Rome. To Gyara? I will go to Gyara. To Athens? I will go to Athens. To prison? I will go to prison. If you should once say, when shall a man go to Athens, you are undone. It is a necessary consequence. That this desire, if it is not accomplished, must make you unhappy, and if it is accomplished, it must make you vain, since you are elated at things at which you ought not to be elated, and on the other hand, if you are impeded, it must make you wretched because you fall into that which you would not fall into. Give up then all these things. Athens is a good place. But happiness is much better, and to be free from passions, free from disturbance, for your affairs not to depend on any man. There is tumult at Rome and visits of salutation. But happiness is an equivalent for all troublesome things. If then the time comes for these things, why do you not take away the wish to avoid them? What necessity is there to carry a burden like an ass, and to be beaten with a stick? But if you do not so, consider that you must always be a slave to him who has it in his power to effect your release, and also to impede you, and you must serve him as an evil genius. There is only one way to happiness, and let this rule be ready both in the morning and during the day and by night. The rule is not to look towards things which are out of the power of our will, to think that nothing is our own, to give up all things to the divinity, to fortune, to make them the superintendents of these things, whom Zeus also has made so, for a man to observe that only which is his own, that which cannot be hindered, and when we read, to refer our reading to this only, and our writing and our listening. For this reason I cannot call the man industrious if I hear this only, that he reads and writes, and even if a man adds that he reads all night, I cannot say so, if he knows not to what he should refer his reading. For neither do you say that a man is industrious if he keeps awake for a girl, nor do I. But if he does it, reads and writes, for reputation, I say that he is a lover of reputation. And if he does it for money, I say that he is a lover of money, not a lover of labor, and if he does it through love of learning, I say that he is a lover of learning, but if he refers his labor to his own ruling power, hegemonikon, that he may keep it in a state conformable to nature and pass his life in that state, then only do I say that he is industrious. For never commend a man on account of these things which are common to all, but on account of his opinions, principles, for these are the things which belong to each man, which make his actions bad or good. Remembering these rules, rejoice in that which is present, and be content with the things which come in season. If you see anything which you have learned and inquired about occurring to you in your course of life, or opportunely applied by you to the acts of life, be delighted at it. If you have laid aside or have lessened bad disposition and a habit of reviling, if you have done so with rash temper, obscene words, hastiness, sluggishness, if you are not moved by what you formerly were, and not in the same way as you once were, you can celebrate a festival daily, today because you have behaved well in one act, and tomorrow because you have behaved well in another. How much greater is this a reason for making sacrifices than a consulship or the government of a province? These things come to you from yourself and from the gods. Remember this, who gives these things, and to whom, and for what purpose. If you cherish yourself in these thoughts, do you still think that it makes any difference where you shall be happy, where you shall please God? Are not the gods equally distant from all places? Do they not see from all places alike that which is going on?